It's fair to say that YouTube has been one of the main platforms for gaming content since its inception. However, if we're talking about the early 2010s, it's more accurate to say that it was the other way
man,
around.
that looks beautiful,
gaming
man.
content was
360
the platform that YouTube stood on. Before the various adpocalypses and the increasingly difficult uphill battle to monetize your videos and keep them monetized, the biggest names in the community were doing 15-minute long Let's Plays of whatever game was the most popular at the moment, and YouTube was happy to plaster their faces all over the site, no matter what they said. But underneath all of the overreactions to jump scares and doing funny voices for the younger demographic of viewers, there was a genre untouched by the more lowbrow tendencies of the time, a kind of content that was based on sheer gaming ability being the source of entertainment for the watcher, as opposed to what the person playing the game was doing. While there's always been very active competitive gaming scenes, the paradigm shifted once games like Call of Duty and other first-person shooters became popular, and clips of particularly extraordinary kills began being shared en masse on sites like YouTube. However, it's misleading to act like this shift happened on its own. Before montage parodies, there were montages themselves, compilations of impressive gameplay and trick shots. Sure, there were many people doing this, and some even before YouTube was a thing, but very few members of this community were, or ever will be, as influential as FaZe Clan. Maybe that's a name you've never heard of before. You grew up already in the era of sugar pill short form ADHD content. Or maybe that's a name you'll hear and instantly remember memories of a bygone era. Roughly 13 years ago, on May 30th, 2010, FaZe Sniping was founded by 3 people. Eric Rivera, also known as Clips, Jeff E-Man from Canada, who went by the name of Cat, and Ben Resistance Christensen from Texas. Together, they made something of an innovation to the genre. Instead of doing trick shots solo, they worked as a team. While Clips had already uploaded a video of himself playing Halo earlier that month, it wasn't quite FaZe until the other two joined. Many of the cultural staples of this era and genre of online gaming content that are taken for granted as the norm were actually started or popularized by FaZe. From the very beginning of the FaZe Clan channel, they were trend-setting. For example, check out this sick intro.
Jungle Beats, holla at me.
The garbage 3D graphics, the Jungle Beats tag. You really can't get more 2010 than that. The upload that debuted the channel was a mini montage of kills that, compared to the kind of insane trick shots that would later become the standard, are super simple and rudimentary. Of course, the entire video looks like it was edited on iMovie, and has what sounds to me like Bring Me the Horizon dubstep playing as its soundtrack. Come to think of it, things really haven't changed that much. Can you feel that? That was all just an overture, though.
Is that real?
The upload that followed was the very first episode of the FaZe uKnoKilo, which now stands at over 1 million views. Certainly, a lot of these views came from way later, as people returned to it out of nostalgia. But even at the time the uKnoKilos were uploaded, they were racking up hundreds of thousands of views, which were no small feat for the super early 2010s. Even if limited to its own little niche, FaZe was already drawing people's attention, and just a few months later, 2 new recruits to FaZe were announced. FaZe Recon, and most notably FaZe Temper, the latter of which has 1.5 million views. As the uKnoKilos raged on and the views kept stacking up, the channel occasionally uploaded videos dedicated to each member of FaZe, and it immediately became clear that Temper was destined to be one of the protagonists of the crew from how much attention his videos got from the community. Temper, real name Thomas Oliveira, was Brazilian and just 16 years old by the time he joined FaZe. A video where he wasn't even playing but just going over his gaming setup now has well over 1 million views.
And right here, these are Turtle Beach X11s. All I use, yeah, I had X1s before, but they kind of broke-ish, sort of. This is my controller. I got FPS streaks on them. Like, these things, you just attach them on, take them off.
Niggas don't know about
However,
control
his star
freaks.
power would soon be matched by another recent recruit, FaZe Fakie. His introduction to the team has almost 2.5 million views, which was initially driven by the fact that on his solo YouTube channel, he had already been uploading clips of his own that had gotten some attention. Later on, he would post tutorials to the FaZe channel, showing off his trick-shotting acumen. It's worth noting that, at this point in time, these guys were playing on Xbox controllers instead of keyboard and mouse, which added to how impressive it was overall. Between the uKnoKilos, Temper, and Fakie, FaZe was consistently making numbers, and by April of 2012, they hit 100,000 subscribers. Later on, as they noticed how particularly popular those two players were, a collaboration between them was posted and made waves, with a staggering 3 million views. Capitalizing further on the kind of content that was working, FaZe started another successful montage series called Sniping with Style, and the former to failure. Not much later, the
not really. It depends on the player.
300,000, and as the montage graduated from Modern Warfare 2 to the recently dropped Modern Warfare 3, FaZe began taking proportions never expected by its founders. Gradually, FPS gaming and FaZe became synonymous, and in late 2012, the channel hit 1 million subscribers. Mind you, around the same time, PewDiePie was reaching 2 million, so having 1 million
depends
was
on
a
which
lot
is
more
better, which
meaningful
is
than it
mouse
is
and
nowadays.
keyboard.
Their success hit new records after the release of Black Ops 2.
Yeah.
The video they posted of the
Not
first
mad at it.
montage featuring the game is at almost 8 million views now. In the
Hey, yo,
beginning of
meaty!
2013,
It's the
another
word.
member was added to the team,
FaZe
FaZe
Rug.
Rug, while new recruits were still
FaZe
joining the
Rug,
it
man.
slowed down now as FaZe was already relatively famous, and everyone who was into gaming wanted in. Because of this, instead of manually looking for and handpicking the new recruits, FaZe started hosting the FaZe 5
back,
Challenge,
Lil
where
Bro
people would
Kilo.
submit their channels and montages to be evaluated and considered for recruitment. At this point, the emo music and dubstep, as well as the grimy graphics, had now given way to slightly cleaner
Apex,
packaging,
bro.
though very much retaining the essence of the monster-drinking, PC-bound lunatic with bags under his eyes from playing through the night that composed the majority of the people watching the content. And some people to this day. Don't know who though. Shortly after, FaZe announced their line of clothing, which again was something
I actually
reserved only
bought
for
a
the higher
shirt.
cast of YouTube at this point in time. The
I bought a
idea
shirt.
of
It
YouTuber
was like
merch
2013 or
was
2012.
insane. We can't go back in time to verify, but
I'm
I'm
about to
pretty
start
sure
staying in
wearing this
stream.
to
You
LAN
entertaining as
parties in
fuck.
2013 was considered refined high fashion. FaZe was big enough for its
Like that,
members
I
to
kinda
afford
like that.
meeting each other in real life, which they did while attending the MLG convention at Anaheim in 2013.
Bro, I used to watch these every year. These would post the MLG Anaheim videos. I'd watch every single one of their videos. Every channel, I'd watch all their vlogs and shit in that one crib, bro. I used to watch that shit all the time, bro. These, yeah, damn. I was like, what, 11? I was like 11 playing Call of Duty. I was still smacking niggas, though. Oh, God, man.
While the gaming content was still in extremely high demand, it was around this point that vlogging was also rising in popularity on the platform.
Vlogs.
And
Oh,
being the
shit.
keen observers they were,
Yeah.
FaZe looked for
Yeah.
ways to capitalize on this trend
Yeah.
as well. In the same year, they posted another real-life video of FaZe members at the MLG convention in Columbus, Ohio. All around, this was a very active period in FaZe history. New recruits included FaZe K, FaZe Banks, and FaZe Jev. One of the cams was even officially endorsed, if that's the right term for it, by rapper Hoodie
Hoodie
Allen, who loved
Allen.
to use his
Oh
music.
my
More
God.
vlogging content was experimented with, though they hadn't quite settled on the best format for it yet, with videos that documented a day in the life of a particular player, or even real-life trick shots, but in beer pong. Temper and Banks collectively decided that, to maximize the potential of FaZe, they would need to move in together to
fucking
in
New York house.
basically to dedicate all of their time in managing FaZe and making lifestyle
The
content
New
for it
York
besides the
house.
gaming. Officially, Temper was the CEO of FaZe, while Banks was the COO. Fancy way to say the second highest in the hierarchy. In mid-2014, all of the winners of the FaZe 5 along with Temper participated in
Knicks.
a vlog that essentially presented all of the new recruits, which many of the people watching took inspiration from, since
Is that Agony? That is Agony. Yeah, he was FaZe 5. Yeah.
many of the guys that got in were,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, just like them. The appeal of how relatable the team seemed was magnified by the fact that they were getting sponsors like G Fuel.
Yo,
their gaming
Sinful!
endeavors were proving more and more profitable.
Sinful, man. Great
I
fucking
mean, what
guy,
could be
great
more
human
attractive
being,
to
great
the
fucking guy,
2012
man.
teenager to
How you
young adult
doing?
male demographic than getting to go on trips around the
How you
world to
doing,
meet
man?
up with other avid video players just like you, all while making actual money from playing Call
Yeah,
of Duty.
yeah.
It may seem
watch
commonplace
Battle.
now, but back then it was insane, and these guys were rock stars. Little known fact, one of their new series from this time, FaZe for All, had its second episode featuring none other than Scarce. The further you go back in time, the more these
Scarce!
successful
Does Scarce even do videos anymore?
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Scares.
Hey! Yes, he still does videos. I love it. That Scarce a goat. I don't give a fuck what no one say. That a goat. I like that shit right there, man.
episode featuring none other than Scarce. The further you go back in time, the more these successful content creators occasionally clump together.
Look at Tico in
FaZe
the
was
back.
functioning as a well-oiled machine and needed very little maintenance or exhaustive creative direction, as people were tripping over themselves to make quality content for the channel. And because of the much more dynamic game mechanics that became the norm after Black Ops 2, the trick shots were already leagues more complex and elaborate than they were just a couple of years ago. And soon, the success of FaZe grew far larger than the niche of competitive online gaming, where it took its first baby steps. How much money they were already making at this point is unknown, but according
Chubbs
to
or
Temper
Nicki
himself,
Minaj?
they weren't making that much besides their partnership deals with Machinima and G Fuel. As
I
he
bought
puts it,
I
we
bought
were kids
FaZe
running this
Berry, bro.
organization. We were a massive
remember buying it,
organization
bro.
with zero organization. By 2015, FaZe had attracted the attention of Hubrick, a social media platform from Norway.
Hubrick.
To say that FaZe just piqued its interest is a
Isn't
bit of
G
an
Fuel bad for you?
understatement, though,
Fuck
because
no.
Sebastian Gertz, the
I don't know who
CEO
lied.
of Hubrick, decided to fly Temper out to Norway personally so that they could talk about turning FaZe from a successful successful channel into a solidified brand and household name. Thanks to this investment into FaZe, both financially and creatively speaking, FaZe's recruitment strategy began targeting already established top esports players. By doing this, they acquired G2, an already prominent esports collective, and turned it into FaZe CSGO. The video introducing the new team, which would operate independently from the original FaZe clan that worked mainly Call of Duty titles, now has over 2 million views. Yet another big chunk of the FPS market was now being targeted.
This is when it was good. I can't lie though.
It seemed like their dominance would
when
keep
FaZe
growing
had their
indefinitely.
CSGO team, I think that was like
massive investment
that was like
FaZe
the
into
peak.
a much more professional organization.
That was the peak.
uBrick now held certain power over it and decided to put some of their guys in to oversee the operations and ensure that the brand is well taken care of. To do this, they had Temper step down from his position as CEO and brought in a man named Lee Trink, the former EVP and general manager of Virgin Records America, which as far as record labels go is one of the most prestigious ones, having people like Taylor Swift and Shawn Mendes signed to them. Given the caliber of professionals that were coalescing around FaZe, it was clear that everyone in the team had massively lowballed the potential of the brand. Trink himself said that the buzz around the esports scene was disproportionately large compared to the money actually in it, meaning despite drawing a gigantic amount of attention, it didn't necessarily convert to cash. To be fair, this problem wasn't exclusive to the esports communities and easily applied to online content and media in general.
Yo, I ain't gonna lie, I might have to order some food right now.
It took a while to start taking it seriously, but these guys were smart enough to notice the potential it did have. As a matter of fact, they were so ahead of the game that there was even an express interest in making long-form content, which many took years to realize was where the actual money was at. I mean, to this day, there are people grinding away on YouTube to post content that's just too short when it comes to time to maximize its potential for reward. Not to go to Mr. Beast on you guys, but it's really noteworthy that FaZe was being handled with some degree of competence. At least, it seemed to really pay off for its members, who had no shortage of demonstrations of just how well paid they were. FaZe Rain, for example, posted a video in 2017 of his brand new McLaren 570, which was worth just short of $200,000. By the end of 2016, they moved their headquarters from their New York house to a larger one in Los Angeles, and the tour video that accompanied it did.
Look, this honestly, bro, even though a lot of people say that the LA house was ass, obviously, you know, New York #1, it wasn't that bad. It was just the beginning of the end, you know what I'm saying? Like when it started the decline, bro. They were still posting and shit, but it was the beginning of the end, bro.
Numbers. Much like every other piece of content that got uploaded to their channel, it was evident that the house was expensive and a sign that there had been a major upgrade to the scale of
New York house is
regardless,
just
people largely identified with the FaZe members and were happy
with
that
no
they had grown to such
undefeated.
magnitudes. Besides Lee Trink, a new addition to the FaZe managerial team was Greg Selko, founder of Karmaloop, which, if you didn't know, was a major streetwear e-commerce company.
Yo, Bull, what's good? Yo, Jen, suck my fucking dick.
Making gaming more fashionable by associating with things like sports and rap music, which were his personal interests and the lifestyle that he, along with the rest of FaZe, began exhibiting as soon as it became financially viable. It's safe to say that he got exactly what he was aiming at. After a few close calls and high-prestige championships, in 2017, the FaZe CSGO team won the E-League and netted a total of $500,000 in winnings. In the same year, FaZe Banks, who up until this point was primarily occupied with supporting the pre-existing FaZe operations, decided to take the idea of pivoting to other kinds of content seriously, and when he moved to LA, he started the influencer group called The Clout House, along with fellow YouTubers RiceGum and Alyssa Violet. While the regularly scheduled programming at the FaZe channel took timid, even if successful, steps toward doing things like challenge videos, Banks and The Clout House went all out into the high octane, and consequently, drama-laden side of YouTube. Soon after, Banks also acquired the two houses adjacent to the original Clout House and bragged on Twitter that he was paying $100,000 a month on rent. Now at this point, people's empathy for Banks and his overall relatability began to wear a bit thin, considering the kind of people he was associating with and the attitude he was adopting.
The Clout House was just
slowly split away from mainline FaZe and more towards clout and drama. Really just towards RiceGum, which I did a whole video about, but you guys know what happened there. As was par for the course for this era of YouTube, they all instantly began beefing with Jake Paul and Team 10. Team 10, remember that? It feels like a lifetime ago, honestly. If you've never actively thought about why it was so customary
Bull, you got
for YouTubers to click up.
No, I don't, and my name's not Bull fucking Bull, bitch ass.
Extremely profitable, and probably continues to be as far as I can tell. In practice, you get two massive fan bases to collide and interlace with each other because, well, their favorite content creator is having a spat with someone else's favorite content creator. Sure, there's always an amount of overlap in the fandoms, but then again, there's plenty of people being introduced to the other person's content because of the drama, and as long as it's petty and meaningless conflict, there's no real negative to it. Now, I don't want to be completely cynical about it since it's a sensitive topic, but considering how insensitively it was treated by the people involved.
He's not even reminding me of the worst eras, he's reminding me of FaZe's worst eras, bro. It hurts. Like, I swear, this hurts, bro. This shit hurts, bro. I don't think really realize, bro, like a lot of niggas grew up on FaZe, bro. A lot of little kids grew up on FaZe, me included, bro. Me as a little ass, I'm 22 now. I'm a grown ass man. You gotta think, I grew up on watching these niggas, bro. I was watching these niggas, bro, studying these niggas, bro. I think I learned how to snipe at 13, 14.
I have to point out
I
how
still don't know how to
performative it all
snipe.
seems. Basically, in 2017,
Nigga, watch, I'm about to hit a clip
Jake
today.
Paul posted a video saying that his assistant, Meg Zelly, was assaulted by FaZe Banks. Though this video has since been taken down, it was re-uploaded so that we can see that this very serious allegation was packed into the same video as Jake complaining that his dog took a shit on his Tesla.
Meg was assaulted by a man last night who is in the same like community and space as us. And Apollo pooped all over him. Look at this. Now I'm out here cleaning. I'm out here scrubbing, kids. This is what you do for your pets.
Banks replied with about as much seriousness as can be expected, and honestly, I don't even think it's worth it to get into the details of this situation as much as it's worth it to observe Rice Gum frantically do his signature gestures and body language like he has hip-hop Tourette's. Soon after, Logan joined in. Banks made a video called Meeting Jake Paul in Person, in which he does not actually meet Jake Paul in person. Shocking, I know. Then, a member of Team 10 who supposedly witnessed everything that happened the night the assault allegedly took place did an interview with Banks, exonerating him of all the accusations. For a while, even though it was settled, the whole thing lived on as a barnacle on the Jake Paul versus Rice Gum beef that was going on. Eventually, it culminated in a Drama Alert episode into a full-on Clout Gang versus Team 10, with Banks making a follow-up call-out video with legacy commentary video transitions that I feel oddly nostalgic for, and I honestly like to this day, even though I'm well aware that they are garbage.
Without further ado, let's get into it.
What the hell does Rick and Morty have to do with anything? Like, why is Rick here? Why is Morty here? Why are they sitting on the couch?
It was just, it was
Why is
time,
this
bro.
here? Speaking of the
time, bro. Sometimes you gotta put some shit on the
To
screen.
participate in other FaZe members' videos, such as FaZe Censors, teaching Keemstar how to work out. Regardless of how stupid and trashy all this stuff seems out, we're looking back at it, it pretty much ran YouTube for a good while. While all of this was going on, the OG FaZe Clan channel was still grinding out its usual content like always, even going as far as playing Call of Duty with Lil Yachty, who, at the time, was one of the biggest people when it came to trending. Their goal of diversifying to get attention from as many places as possible simultaneously was a massive success, and the fruits of their labor made themselves manifest. As in 2018, FaZe opened its A-Series funding round, which is finance cell jargon for becoming available for private investors that want to chip in. This move proved extremely popular as the list of investors was star-studded from top to bottom.
What's the plan for today, brother?
A-list musicians including Pitbull, multiple basketball players, skateboarders, music executives, radio hosts, actors, and even Jimmy Lovine himself, the co-founder of Interscope Records, which is one of the biggest labels ever, to put it mildly, put money in. All in all, the investments totaled 40 mil, which meant that faith in the success of FaZe was at an all-time high. To top it all off, in January of 2020, they received an extra $22 million from a Canadian investment firm called Canaccord Genuity. But while their bottom line was ironclad on the more financial and corporate end, they began suffering a few costs in the PR department. Initially, Banks' move to become the YouTuber face of FaZe was very rewarding, as he did vlogs with Ninja and continued to milk his connections with Rice Gum, as well as Jake and Logan Paul, for as many views as he possibly could. And I don't even blame him. However, being this public meant that, along with raking in benefits, you'd also have to deal with the possible downsides of the exposure.
No Motion.
One of the people that Banks regularly collabed with, Turner, or T2 as he was known online, filed a lawsuit against FaZe Clan.
You see what happens to FaZe? I put all my money into it.
Wanted out of. The details include T2 having to kick up 80% of his revenue from online streaming, as well as half of everything he makes from touring and real-life appearances to FaZe. I
can't lie, the Tfue contract, legendary. That legendary. Oh God. Oh my fucking goodness. When I heard about this, I was like, damn.
He wanted out of. The details include Tfue having to kick up 80% of his revenue from online streaming, as well as half of everything he makes from touring and real-life appearances to FaZe. He also claims that, after being pressured to move into the Hollywood FaZe house, he was given alcohol and was encouraged to gamble, all before he turned 21. This greatly upset Banks, who immediately recorded and posted a video commenting on the situation, expressing how upset he was that he got no heads up about the lawsuit, despite considering Tfue not just a business partner, but a close friend whom he considered family. On top of this, he made light of Tfue's allegations of being pressured into drinking, as there was a video of him drinking when he was 20 while not in the FaZe house at all. The point of Banks' video, which seems noticeably a lot more serious and far less performative than any of his other drama videos, was not that Tfue was a bad person, but that given Banks' history of going out of his way to help him out, this matter should have been settled out of court and behind the cameras. It's worth noting that after the response to Tfue, Banks stopped uploading altogether, and that trend has persisted today, 3 years later. Tfue's reply was short and blunt, focusing primarily on his contract with FaZe Clan and how purportedly abusive
This video
it is.
legendary.
In this video, he repeatedly asked for permission to show his audience the contracts themselves, which according to him were self-evidently exploitative. Another FaZe representative, Seabass, came forward and addressed Tfue's concerns in a video where they reveal that, as the management changed over the years, FaZe had already attempted to renegotiate Tfue's contract with him many times so that the terms wouldn't be as bad as even they recognized them to be. Seabass claims that, during these negotiations, Tfue ranged from uncooperative to outright unresponsive. Now, while it's certainly noteworthy that FaZe didn't just leave Tfue out to dry and actually tried to figure out a better agreement, it is a bit of an obfuscation from their side to neglect the facts that the bottom line was that they didn't want to let Tfue leave FaZe under any circumstance because he was just too profitable for them. Of course, the excuse given was that they thought the fans deserved better, but over time it became clear that letting Tfue simply leave was something they never intended to even consider, because that meant losing one of their main assets. Seabass claimed that FaZe had collected about 60 grand from their percentages on Tfue's partnerships, while Tfue himself made millions. But this didn't remedy the problem that Tfue was bringing up in the first place. FaZe's official reaction then crystallized into a counter lawsuit claiming he had earned over $20 million from streaming and hadn't shared any of it with FaZe despite being contractually obliged to do so. The suit was also alleging that the campaign over-revealing the contract caused extensive damages to FaZe's public image and did not respect their agreement that Tfue would keep his terms with FaZe confidential. Last but not least, FaZe was claiming that Tfue's objective with all of it was to lay the groundwork for a rival esports company of his own, which again would be a massive violation of his contract, which basically forbade him from doing so. This was because around the same time Tfue was leaving, his main partner in the organization, Dennis Lepore, or Cloaksy, was also leaving, and they promptly moved to New Jersey together. However, when asked about this on Twitter, he claimed his departure from FaZe had nothing to do with Tfue, despite the timing. Tfue's lawyer responded to the lawsuit saying, FaZe Clan's lawsuit in New York is a ridiculous and obvious attempt to avoid the consequences of its clear violations of California law. Filing the lawsuit in New York is actually an admission that FaZe Clan has no defense to these violations of California law. Ask yourself, why is FaZe Clan afraid to litigate its wrongful conduct in California? The answer is obvious. FaZe Clan will lose. In the New York lawsuit, FaZe Clan actually admits to violating California's Talent Agencies Act by procuring employment without a license. Equally egregious is the fact that FaZe Clan is suing Turner under its legal contract for the monies it publicly represented that it was not collecting. This is the first time in the history of esports an organization has had the audacity to try and enforce contractual provisions that are so clearly illegal against one of its gamers. However you cut it, this is a terrible situation for all parties involved, but ultimately, Tfue had every right to want out of his relationship, even if he did sign the contract and agree to the terms. There's no clear conclusion to draw from this besides the fact that corporate attitudes and contracts tend to be very antithetical to organic, healthy relationships, but I digress. The fallout from this very public conflict.
Fuck, bro. I watched every single one of these niggas, bro. Fuck!
But I digress. The fallout from this very public conflict was extremely detrimental to FaZe at a period when PR was of utmost
McDonald's,
importance.
Ghost,
they were trying to raise
DraftKings,
capital to establish the brand.
DoorDash,
Immediately
MoonPay,
following the breaking of this
Steel
news,
Series.
it was revealed that FaZe had signed a player called Highski when he was just 11 years old and pressured him to lie about his age since the rules clearly established that players below the age of 13 couldn't be admitted into FaZe. Regardless of this rough patch, the rest of the year 2020 was looking pretty good for FaZe. Since their business mostly relied on operations that didn't require anyone to leave their house, they went by mostly unscathed through the pandemic. In March, they dropped a video revealing the new FaZe house, which was worth a whopping $30 million, and at this point, the disconnect in the content was becoming blatant, as it felt less like FaZe and more like Jake Paul with a gamer overcoat. If you were to look at the uploads from this period, there would often be multiple consecutive non-gaming uploads of just vlog and lifestyle content, and when there was gaming stuff, it would be Fortnite, which despite still being really popular, felt a lot more like following what was trending as opposed to innovating or what made FaZe what it was, which was COD. But despite some people disliking it, anything FaZe did was extremely popular and profitable. By June, they announced their co-partnership of Drink Control, a company that made meal replacement high-calorie drinks, which was very much an on-brand move as far as marketing it to gamers, considering some guys will go as far as pee in bottles so that they don't have to make trips to the bathroom while trick-shotting. I'm sure offering this demographic a way to drink their meals instead of having to go through the hassle of eating is an easy sell. By the end of the year, FaZe Clan was reportedly worth over $300 million.
I'm sorry, I I didn't pause because I was really trying to take in what the fuck I was just looking at. That shit real on God, eh? Oh God, niggas don't know about that 20 hours a day shit. I honestly, I never took. Look, I took it serious, but I never took it serious because I couldn't do YouTube. I couldn't do streaming at the time. Obviously, I was a little ass kid. I didn't have no money. All I had was a little ass TV. The box TVs, by the way, the green, you know, the red, white, and yellow cord in the bitch. I was on the 360. Even on the fucking Xbox, I was on that shit too. Even on the Xbox One, I was on that shit. I was broke, nigga. I was broke.
By the end of the year, FaZe Clan was reportedly worth over $300 million, and its revenue was estimated by Forbes to be $40 million. Ranking them as the fourth most valuable esports company in.
Couldn't even fucking hate. Cause they really were making a lot of fucking money, and I know money, obviously, like that's important, but like, you know what I'm saying, these niggas were really coming up. I can't even lie, them niggas was worth damn near, what did they get to, like couple hundred million, a couple hundred too.
In the world. One of their many endeavors that they invested in was FaZe Studios, which was created to produce movies under the FaZe brand. Their first film production was called Crimson, a horror movie about FaZe Rug moving into a house without knowing creepy haunted clowns live next door. Yeah.
I thought it was fake. I swear to God, I don't remember this. I don't remember this. That's crazy to me. That's news. That's actually news to me.
Nevertheless, it's pretty hilarious to think that there's a full-on horror movie out there that stars FaZe Rug and is edited like a FaZe vlog but with spooky music in the background. Some movie critic channel should watch it and make a video about it. You guys should have dollar signs in your eyes. Now, to their credit, they also have other productions, such as a reality show for Quibi centered around a recruitment contest for FaZe. Regardless of how silly some of the extremities of the FaZe brand had become, the money these guys were moving on the regular was anything but. By June 2021, they got featured on Sports Illustrated, which was pretty major considering that, at that point, no other esports conglomerate had achieved that feat. That same year, FaZe was orienting itself towards becoming a publicly traded company.
That's gold, I can't lie.
To do that, it would merge with the special purpose acquisition investors B. Riley Principal, which as far as financial companies go, was about as straightforward and boring as they come. So it was a bit surprising that they'd be willing to go out on a limb and merge with FaZe of all things. But that really just shows the money they were taking in. The expected initial valuation of FaZe when it entered NASDAQ was the surprising figure of $1 billion.
Oh yeah!
A major leap from their previous valuations. Just in the process of merging, they would be getting $291 million from B. Riley and would be renamed into FaZe Holdings Incorporated, I guess because it gave them more credibility as a company than Clan. When speaking about this very major move towards a much more cut and dry corporate version of FaZe, Lee Trink said, "In our short history, we've evolved from a disruptive content generator to one of the world's most decorated and successful esports franchises, and now into one of the younger generation's most recognized and followed brands globally. We believe FaZe Clan is becoming the voice of youth culture, a brand that sits at the nexus of content, gaming, entertainment, and lifestyle in the digital native world. This transaction will provide us both capital and access to public markets, which will help us accelerate the expansion of our multi-platform and monetization strategy." While all of this did seem very solid, it painted a very different picture of FaZe than what people came to expect, especially considering the kind of antics the members were still regularly getting into. I mean, one of the company's board of directors was none other than Snoop Dogg, although what his actual involvement in the company is unknown. I suspect it was nothing. In July of 2021, the merger was finalized with FaZe and B. Riley, but with a valuation of $725 million instead of the original billion. While still an insane figure, it led people to wonder if this drop in value came as a consequence of FaZe's structure being less financially concrete than it presented itself to be. Another thing that raised widespread doubts about FaZe's financial regularity was the fact that in 2021, FaZe K became one of the main representatives of the infamous Save the Kids crypto scam. Other FaZe members that got involved were Jarvis, Tico, and Nikon, who were all suspended for their involvement in the scam, while K was outright kicked. A year after their deal with B. Riley was finalized, FaZe finally went public, and the company's value immediately began going down. From its all-time high of $20 per share, within 2 months, it dropped to a measly $4, which meant things were looking extremely grim. Partially, this is because it was revealed that FaZe was promised $100 million worth of private investments during the process of going public, but after it went public, it got less than $30 million, which was a major red flag and made a lot of people lose faith in the value of FaZe. That's how you know. Though it's a little complicated and financy to explain, government filings reveal that FaZe had defaulted on $74 million worth of its investments, and over 90% of the investors chose to get a cash payout immediately after the company went public, which drained almost $200 million from the company's value and made it look like a quick cash grab for savvy investors.
Yep.
But ultimately, FaZe was destined to
was.
crash and burn. It was during the same time that FaZe announced its metaverse project, FaZe World, though there hasn't yet been a sign they went anywhere with this, and as far as we know, it's languishing and forgotten in some FaZe office. Fortunately, they had plenty of other endeavors, such as a partnership with DC Comics to produce and publish an issue of Batman that included prominent members of FaZe as superheroes. Strange. The business side of FaZe was so prioritized that they were even willing to forget their rivalry with another esports organization such as Optic Gaming so that they could work on selling merch together. Streetwear company Network, basically a store that is only open temporarily, which drives up the rarity and value of the items sold. It was called The Armory, and it stayed open from May to June of 2022 in Fairfax, LA, which is one of the most disputed and popular locations in California. Besides selling merchandise, the venue would also be used to host gaming championships. But despite their best efforts, and for reasons that aren't exactly easy to understand, their stock value just continued to sink to deeper and deeper lows. By January 2023, the price dropped to below $1. This is particularly bad news because
I couldn't even tell you, like, I couldn't even guess why the fuck this happened, honestly. I couldn't even guess why it dropped like this. They were doing good shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know the OG fans, obviously, nigga, like, you know, they lost a lot of OG fans around this time, bro. We ball.
Because the whole point of making FaZe into FaZe Holdings was to have it on NASDAQ. But if a stock stays below $1 for over a month, it gets hit with something called a notice of delisting, which means you have 180 days to get the price up to $1 or more, or your stock gets delisted. By February, the stock hovered at around 75 cents, and by March, they got the notice of delisting. And it really doesn't look like it's going to go to the moon anytime soon. So their efforts to make FaZe into some kind of Nike are probably going to fail. Lee Trink, the CEO of FaZe, claimed that they had enough money to keep them afloat until November of 2020.
Hey, I just seen these like 2 days ago. I was in Foot Locker. I seen the FaZe Nike shits. I was like, oh, they look alright. I'm not gonna buy them. They look alright though. I'm just not gonna buy them though.
To fail. Lee Trink, the CEO of FaZe, claimed that they had enough money to keep them afloat until November of 2023, but this could just mean that the company is on borrowed time and barely making ends meet, and will literally come apart the moment that time comes. It's odd because the same month the stock price dipped below $1, FaZe announced that they signed a multi-year partnership with none other than Porsche, which is one of, if not the most distinguished car company, period. Within a month of this, 1/5 of FaZe's staff was laid off, supposedly because of the economy, but most likely because of the company being in dire straits. Though at one point the main FaZe channel was always putting out a bunch of videos of both gaming and lifestyle content, now it was limited to posting once a month and focusing almost exclusively on their collaborations with other celebrities and YouTubers such as Mr. Beast and Jadion. Sure, when they did upload, the numbers weren't terrible, but the content felt void of any identity and personality. It felt like it was being made out of obligation. Notwithstanding, some of the most important members of FaZe that originally drew a lot of people into the content were now mostly absent. For a long time, people have been commenting that they missed the old FaZe and expressed their fears that the brand will be swallowed up by the corporate side of things. Something that many claim happened to older YouTube brands like Smosh. Now, every single one of those fears came true.
Smosh was like what happened to FaZe times a fucking 100.
When the organization was a shell of what it once was. Before the stock price was even in danger of being delisted by the end of 2022, FaZe Rain was already speaking out about the corruption of FaZe with a massively positive reaction from the community. For a while, Rain was alone in this struggle against FaZe and what it had become, but in March of 2023, a video from another member, Tico, came out. In it, Tico explains that despite publicly defending FaZe during their friction with Tfue over the contracts, Tico's own contract was still the same one that Tfue was trying to escape from, and FaZe never did anything to change that. To make matters worse, FaZe often neglected whatever Tico was up to as far as representing FaZe, often leaving him to his own devices and making him pay for his trips to game contests, as well as showing complete incompetence to do things as simple as coordinating merch with Tico, feeding him false promises, and consistently letting them fall through. However, one thing they never failed to do, according to Tico, was charge him for 20% of everything he did, despite offering no significant help whatsoever.
In a way, FaZe is bigger than it ever was, but it's also smaller than it ever was.
Thank you.
All of these collabs that we're doing with really, really big brands. You know what it is to me? All of these collabs that's coming out, it's like Band-Aid or silver tape on internal bleeding. That's the way I see it. And they think talent don't matter. They think that we don't matter because they think that they can do everything because they see the FaZe logo as the Nike logo and they can just do whatever they want. But there's no depth to it. There's no substance.
I'm telling you, Media, this shit hurt. I swear to God, bro.
Backing it. There's no culture anymore. That's what these people don't understand.
The community was deeply supportive of Tico standing up against FaZe, and Rain also came out in his defense, reacting to his video and backing up everything he was saying.
sure.
For the brunt of FaZe's original following, this felt like a breath of fresh air and a light at the end of the tunnel as far as FaZe potentially returning to his essence. Back when Tico first came out, there was a lot of controversy as to who was in the right, but now it became clearer than ever that the people running FaZe were asleep at the wheel in the best case scenario. Later on in the month, a video came out of Rain and Tico meeting up to discuss FaZe, which again got people's hopes up for a real FaZe revival on the horizon. FaZe also reacted to Seabass, the member who originally spoke up against Tfue over the contracts, trying to pull the same maneuver as Tico, saying that he should be thankful to have a roof over his head. This is absurd since without the members like the member who originally spoke up against Tfue over the contracts, trying to pull the same maneuver as Tico, saying that he should be thankful to have a roof over his head. This is absurd since without the members like Tico that built the brand from the ground up, the corporate overhead that they're working to sustain had nothing going for them. When going over FaZe's official response to the situation, FaZe Rain stumbled upon an interaction between Mr. Beast and the FaZe Clan account on Twitter, wherein Mr. Beast says that when he visited the FaZe headquarters, they had no idea how to make a good piece of content. When the most successful and prolific YouTuber in the world is telling you that, you should
that hurts.
Soon after Tico connected with Rain, he also posted a video saying he was going to move in with fellow FaZe member Rug. Other than this bubble of activity, other FaZe members have stayed pretty much silent on the matter, even if they do occasionally admit the company has a serious problem. FaZe Temper has been mostly preoccupied with his boxing events, such as his fight with KSI. However, he appears in a picture posted to FaZe Banks' Twitter with the caption, "Up to something," which further promoted hopes of a FaZe resurgence. Banks himself just recently addressed the situation on Twitter, saying, "I don't know what all these corporate think they're doing, weighing options, plotting, doing whatever the it is they've been doing. But the answer is very simple. Give us our brand back. You stole it in the first place. It goes to zero otherwise. You have no idea what FaZe is." When confronted by people who were posting that the current state of FaZe was, at least partially, Banks' fault for signing it over to the people who ruined the brand, he replied, "Never signed anything. My shares were stolen very early in FaZe Clan's development and were only reinstated 1.5 years ago. Fun fact, my shares were legitimately stolen from me in 2016. I was written out of the company. They were only reinstated right before it was taken public." Point being, I legally haven't had any say in how this company operates or the decisions it's made for the majority of its existence. Because of his otherwise complete silence on this matter, whether for contractual obligations or other reasons, it's unclear what he's referring to here. What is safe to say, however, is that a consensus is taking place that FaZe is not in good hands and is due for a reconstruction. Who knows, maybe we'll be in for another decade's worth of good content. Or maybe FaZe Clan is bound for the floor. Regardless, I've been Turkey Tom, thanks for watching, and until next time, FaZe up and leave me alone.
Great fucking video.